PIMA. She will do the needful to do the introduction to our chief guest for this evening. Can we have a round of applause for this beautiful lady? Minister of Finance and Media, Honorable Mangala Samaraweera, hails from a renowned political family from the southern part of Sri Lanka. Having had his primary education at Royal College, Colombo, Honorable Mangala Samaraweera completed his higher studies in London, UK. He obtained his Bachelor of Arts honours in Fashion and Textile Design at the prestigious Central St Martin's in London. On his return to Sri Lanka in 1982, he worked as a visiting lecturer at the Institute of Aesthetic Studies, University of California, as well as being a consultant to the Department of Textiles, spearheading a campaign to market local textiles into the West. In 1993, Honorable Mangala Samaraweera was appointed to the Central Political Committee of Sri Lanka Freedom Party. In 1994, he was sworn into the cabinet of President Chandrika Kumaratunga as Minister of Posts and Telecommunications, making him the youngest member of the parliament. In the general elections in 1989, Honorable Mangala Samaraweera was elected as a member of parliament for the Mangala district and has continuously represented the southern constituency. Since then, Honorable Mangala Samaraweera has been serving the Sri Lankan government, holding various prestigious positions, including Cabinet Minister of Posts and Telecommunications in 1994, Minister of Media and Information in 1997, Minister of Urban Development, Housing and Construction in 2000, Minister of Ports and Aviation and the Media, as well as the Deputy Minister of Education from 2004 to 2007, Minister of Foreign Affairs from 2005 to 2007. In April 2010, he was re-elected to Parliament as Member of Parliament for the Mangala district. Subsequently, in January 2015, from January 2015 to May 2017, he served the country as Minister of Foreign Affairs before taking over responsibilities as a Minister of Finance and Media. We are honored to have you with us today, sir. And ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the Minister of Finance.
Introduction, listening to it made me feel very old. Mr. Dinesh Hamangoda, Swami, Governor, Central Bank, office bearers, executive committee members of the PIMA alumni, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first of all thank you for inviting me to address the PIMA Alumni Association meeting today, and I'm indeed very happy to share some thoughts with you on the important and timely topic, development landscape of Sri Lanka 2025. In fact, had any of you the opportunity to visit the first Enterprise Sri Lanka exhibition, which is still going on, in fact, the last day in Mangala, you would have had the opportunity to get an overview of the government's vision for the next 7 years. In fact, in recent times in Sri Lanka, the perception of development has become somewhat unclear. Development has become associated generally with ports, airports, expressways, power plants, and other mega infrastructure initiatives. If a port is built which does not generate economic activity, or an airport that does not attract any commercial flights, it may of course increase the GDP, but that I feel cannot be considered development. To development, to define succinctly, is a process by which a nation improves the economic, political and social well-being of all its peoples. I believe for a country to develop, the two most important pillars on development that must be achieved are democracy, and for a country like Sri Lanka, with a history of ethnic tension, the pillar of reconciliation. While there's a lot to be said about the gains in political freedom of citizens, especially in the last few years, as well as the government's commitment to create a truly multi-ethnic, multi-religious country, a country united in its diversity, I will of course focus today only on economic development. For its purpose, the primary barometers for economic well-being would be real wage growth and full employment. In today's context, Sri Lanka no longer enjoys labor cost advantages since we have relatively high income levels. This is indeed a good thing. We also no longer have the fiscal space to invest public funds in large infrastructure projects. To illustrate this fact, in the year 2017, the government's tax revenue was rupees 1.6 billion rupees. 1.6 trillion rupees, 1,670 billion. While total debt service payment in 2017 was rupees 1,603 billion, or 1.3 trillion rupees. In the 5 years between 2010 and 2014, the average annual debt service payment was 990 billion. Compared to 2014, the annual debt service payment in 2018 has virtually doubled. This year records the highest debt repayment since independence. Approximately, we are expected to pay rupees 1.9 trillion rupees this year as debt repayment. Nearly 82 of these repayments are from the pre-2015 era. And of course, the next 2 years are going to be even more difficult because the bunching effect, I'm sure the governor will talk about it later. And we have to pay nearly 4 trillion rupees for 2019 and 2020. Therefore, it is clear that the government needs to undertake more difficult and challenging reforms in order to drive future economic growth and development. Ladies and gentlemen, this entails improving the competitiveness of the economy so that output per employee is higher, and this would be reflected in higher real wages. The challenge remains as how does the government improve the competitiveness of the economy. In order to drive competitiveness, it is necessary for economic resources to be diverted into activities that optimize output per worker. This requires a shift of economic activity into sectors where Sri Lanka is globally competitive and move out of sectors where we cannot compete. In agriculture, for instance, we all know that approximately 30% of the labor force accounts for around only 9% of GDP. By protecting uncompetitive agriculture, we are in effect trapping farmers in low-wage economic activity. It is clear that we need to gradually shift into higher value agriculture in order to improve output per farmer and thus the income per farmer. To get there, we need investment and technology, both FDI and domestic private investment. The same principle applies to all other economic sectors, many of which are uncompetitive but have been protected for far too long, stifling competition, innovation, and real wage growth, whilst imposing high costs of protection on the consumers. It is in this context that the government has embarked on a shift in the economic trajectory of Sri Lanka from a protected domestic market-driven economy to be a more outward-oriented economy, even though Sri Lanka opened up its economy way before other Asian countries or South Asian countries did in 1977. I believe because of the war and other events which followed, we actually did not follow that path, and as a result, especially in the last 10 or 15 years, we became more and more of a protectionist economy, and that is why we had to recommence that journey towards liberalizing all over again in 2015. The future of our economic growth must be through exports, entrepreneurship, FDI, and of course private enterprise. Sri Lanka needs private enterprise and investment, creating jobs in globally competitive sectors. We have in the past been successful in sectors such as apparel and ICT, but this needs to be expanded in many more sectors. In order to unlock the potential of the economy, we are implementing an economic program that includes gradual liberalization of the economy to attract private investment and instill more competition, but whilst providing a safety net for those adversely affected by competition. In fact, I firmly believe in a truly liberalized economy, but within that, we also feel that there has to be a very strong net, a welfare net for the poorer sections of the society, while gradually phasing out para-tariffs to encourage competition. In fact, I phased out 1,200 para-tariffs in the last budget, and we have committed ourselves to removing all the 3,000 odd para-tariffs we have by 2020, and I hope to remove another 1,200 or more this year. This is in order to encourage competition and reduce the cost of living. We have already passed anti-dumping and safeguards legislation to protect unfair trade practices. The government has also designed a trade adjustment program that will provide the tools to reskill workers and provide concessionary finance to help firms affected by competition to enhance their competitiveness. At the same time, a series of trade agreements are being negotiated, as you know, to enhance market access to attract investment into sectors of higher productivity, taking advantage of Sri Lanka's strategic geographical location. The EU GSP Plus has already provided a major boost to export market access, and the ongoing negotiations with India and China will further strengthen our country as an investment destination. Leveraging the trade investment nexus will enable Sri Lanka to create high-value jobs and attract technology to drive productivity growth and real wage growth for citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, in addition to enabling market access, it is also essential to address the supply-side bottlenecks of investors. Significant steps have been taken to improve the ease of doing business here in Sri Lanka, particularly through the use of technology in the administrative process. Last week, the online construction permit platform was launched, significantly cutting down the time and cost to obtain construction permits. The online company registration platform was implemented to register a company within 24 hours. All of these measures will significantly reduce investment costs. We have also undertaken crucial reforms to entrench long-term macroeconomic stability. Fiscal stabilization has historically been a major challenge for us here in Sri Lanka. In fact, the passage of the Inland Revenue Act last year and the introduction of the new acts from the 1st of April this year, and the introduction of market-based fuel pricing the fuel formula which was introduced 2 months ago, are major steps, I believe, in terms of improving fiscal sustainability. In 2017, we achieved a primary surplus in the budget and for the first time since the government of Sir John Puttagawala in the 50s. The first time for nearly 60 years where Sri Lanka showed a primary surplus. The result of this fiscal improvement are already materializing, with interest rates beginning to moderate as the 1-year Treasury bill yield has declined by 60 basis points in the last 2 months, and our exports hit an all-time high in 2017, as did FDI. Foreign reserves also reached comfortable levels in spite of rising global interest rates, whilst inflation, again I'm sure as Dr. Kumarasamy will be telling you later, is within the target ranges. Thus it is clear that the government has successfully navigated the macroeconomy into calm, but many more challenges ahead. I'm not saying that we have achieved everything we set out to achieve, but we have reached, I would say, calm, more stable waters in spite of precarious global conditions and onerous external debt obligations. While acknowledging our gains, in the short term, the clear priority is for the government to take measures to kickstart economic growth. It is in this context that we have accelerated 2 key programs which was announced in my budget last November: Enterprise Sri Lanka and the Gamperelia, the Rapid Rural Development Scheme, which I believe, if done properly, and it's still too early days, there are many obstacles, but I believe if done properly, it can have a transformational impact in both rural and urban economies. Enterprise Sri Lanka provides a range of target interest subsidies to stimulate economic activity through private investment and boosting small businesses. In fact, I believe Sri Lanka, even though always touted as an agricultural nation, has really in history been a nation of businessmen, traders and entrepreneurs. In fact, we at the Mangala exhibition which is being done today, which is closing today, we have one section to show the people of this country how we traded with the best of nations many thousands of years. Especially when many people in the so-called developed countries were more or less living in very primitive conditions. Sri Lankan businessmen, Sri Lankan diplomats and others traded with Imperial Rome, Imperial China, Egypt, Persia, and all the points from the cultural triangle is there to prove the skills of our ancient forefathers. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted Enterprise Sri Lanka launched, so that the latent entrepreneurial spirit which is dormant in us can be reawakened, and in order to do so, the government is infusing a lot of money and giving a lot of interest subsidies to encourage the young people to come and not to stop queuing up at ministers or MPs' houses or government jobs, and to take the destiny of their future into their own hands. And we believe it has to be a success, and we are doing everything possible to make it a success. Gamperelia will also infuse life into the rural economy through a rapid public investment program for rural infrastructure. In fact, only for the next 4 months alone, until the 30th of December, we are infusing nearly 200 billion rupees per electorate, which will be about 32 billion rupees for all the electorates in the country. And next year, we hope to continue it throughout the year. and already the work is beginning, and again I hope we reach the objectives we have set for ourselves. This investment program for rural infrastructure will help the recovery from setbacks, also from 2 successive years of drought in many of our rural areas. Despite creating a conducive economic environment, a country will never truly develop without investing in its people, our greatest resource. This government has prioritized spending on education and health services. Expenditure on education, higher education, skills and vocational training reached 2% of GDP in 2017 from 1.4% and will be 2.1% of GDP this year, and we also hope to gradually increase it until we at least reach 5% by 2025. Expenditure on health was 1.55 of GDP last year, and I'm hoping to increase it to 1.69 of GDP this year, and again we are trying to reach the target of 4 to 5% in the next several years. Such expenditure on social infrastructure may not be visible like a mega project, but it has a meaningful impact on the well-being of people. As a government that strongly believes in international partnerships, not isolation, we have pledged to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals by 2030 in order to realize the full potential of our entire population. Every citizen in this country will become a shareholder of the knowledge-based, highly competitive social market economy that has been envisaged in our Vision 2025 policy document. It is therefore clear that this government has not taken the easy shortcuts towards populist economic interventions that can provide short-term benefit but leads to long-term pain. We have inherited the adverse effects of such myopic policies implemented in the past, but we chose not to tread the same path again. A set of well thought out measures are now being implemented to provide a sustainable long-term solution to the development needs of Sri Lanka. The benefits of these reforms may not fully materialize immediately, but with the combined efforts of all stakeholders, especially people like you, we have the opportunity to collectively build a strong, sustainable and equitable economy and society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for your very informative delivery. All what we can say from the Postgraduate Institute of Management, who wishes to be the nation's management mentor, and I think who has already become the nation's management mentor, and PIMA, Postgraduate Institute of Management Alumni, let us know what we can do to take your vision forward. If there is any help from our side, please do let us know to join hands and take this vision forward and make it a reality. Next up in the agenda, we have a very tall gentleman who will be delivering the keynote address. He is a distinguished, eminent personality amongst us, the Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. But before I invite Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy, let me once again invite Shiranti Thevaraperuma to do the official introduction of Dr. Kumaraswamy. Can we have a round of applause for Shiranti, please? Honorable Minister, before you leave, there is a small token of appreciation we would like to give to you. If we have Professor Ajanta Dharmasiri, the Director of PIM, and Mr. Dinesh Mangala, the President of PIMA, to please come forward. Thank you so much for your time and being with us here today. Honorable Minister, and all the best with all your future endeavors. Thank you.
I'm told that Dr. Kumaraswamy doesn't like lengthy introductions, but sir, you have such a rich profile that even after shredding so much, I'm still left with 1.5 pages. So please do that. Dr. Kumaraswamy has been the Governor of Central Bank of Sri Lanka since 4th of July 2016. Dr. Kumaraswamy has 30 years of experience in policymaking and providing economic advisory services on both macroeconomic and structural issues at national and intergovernmental levels. He served as Director of Economic Affairs at the Commonwealth Secretariat. He was an official in the Central Bank of Sri Lanka from 1974 to 1989. Dr. Kumaraswamy worked in the Economic Research, Statistics and in Bank Supervision departments of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. He served the Ministry of Finance and Planning from 1981 to 1989 on secondment. He was re-employed by the Commonwealth Secretariat in 1990 and served there till 2008. During that time, he held senior positions such as Director, Economic Affairs Division and Deputy Director, Secretary General's Office. Dr. Kumaraswamy served as a Director of Sarvadaya Development Finance Limited and as a Director of Pathfinder. He also served as a non-executive independent director at Tokyo Cement Company Lanka PLC and John Keells Holdings PLC from 2011 to 2016. Dr. Kumaraswamy obtained his Bachelor of Arts Honours and Masters in Economics from the University of Cambridge in UK in 1972 and subsequently obtained a doctorate from the University of Sussex in 1981. Here's the interesting part. He not only represented Sri Lanka's national rugby team, but also led Lanka's national rugby team at Rugby Asiad in 1974. Dr. Kumaraswamy also played first-class cricket in Sri Lanka. He is known as an economist who is equally strong on the academic and administration fronts, which of course made him a strong candidate for the position of the Governor Central Bank. By appreciating his diligent professionalism and contributions to the economic development in the country, Dr. Kumaraswamy was awarded Central Bank Governor of the Year in South Asia for the year 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Dr. Kumaraswamy, please do the honors.
Thank you very much. I think things can only go downhill after that. Professor Adanta, the President and Executive Committee of PIMA, ladies and gentlemen, let me first thank PIMA for inviting me and allowing me to be part of this very illustrious gathering. Now, the Honorable Minister of Finance has made such a masterly and comprehensive presentation that there's very little to say. I must say that, and I can add, he has been very clear about what needs to be done and what is being done. But let me see whether I can give it a slightly different twist, in the sense that what I'm proposing to do is to first look backwards. I know the theme is the development landscape in 2025, but let me briefly look backwards so that we can learn some lessons to make sure that we chart the right way forward. And so talk a little bit about some of the challenges that we have inherited from the past, and then to talk a little bit about what is being done to address those, and finally to talk a little bit about what Sri Lanka may look like in 2025. So what are legacy. What about our legacy? I must say it's not an impressive one. In the sense that at the time of independence, in 1948, Sri Lanka was second to Japan in Asia on almost any socio-economic indicator. Clearly, we have now fallen well behind. Several countries have overtaken us. In fact, there are only 2 countries in the Asia-Pacific region who have got IMF programs: ourselves and the Mongolians. So that does not paint us in very good light. So we need to understand why. What are some of the big issues that we got wrong, which has meant that we have gone backwards over the last 70 years, before we try to understand what we need to do to go forward. So a couple of the major issues is that for much of the post-independence period, the country has experienced what one may call macroeconomic stress. If you don't have sound macroeconomic fundamentals, you don't have a foundation, a base on which you can build. And that is what we have experienced for much of the period since our independence. And how has that come about? As the finance minister himself conceded, a big challenge for the country has been the fiscal outcomes. We have had difficulty in getting sustainable fiscal outcomes. What has happened for much of the time is that the budget has pumped excess demand into the system through unsustainable budget deficits. And when that happens, you have inflation. And when inflation is high, nominal interest rates are high. And also, when inflation is high, the exchange rate comes under pressure because the inflation differential between ourselves and our trading, our competitors and trading partners increases, and we lose competitiveness. But it's very difficult to adjust the exchange rate in the Sri Lankan context because we have a very high import component in our basic consumption basket. So it's politically difficult. So for much of the period, certainly the period after 1977, when we had a more market-oriented economy, and these prices were prices like the interest rate and the exchange rate tended to become somewhat more market-oriented, we had essentially, if you were to characterize the Sri Lankan economy, a high budget deficit, high inflation, high nominal interest rate, overvalued currency economy. That is now 180 degrees, the opposite to what the successful countries of East and Southeast Asia did. They ran tight budgets, they had low inflation, which enabled them to have low interest rates, and they had actually competitive and undervalued exchange rates, not overvalued exchange. So this macroeconomic stress that was really driven by the government budget over many years was one of the main causal factors for our ability for us to lose our place in the Asian pecking order. So that's one lesson to learn. The second is, if you look around at the successful countries again in Asia, almost all of them essentially experienced economic transformation through FDI and export-led growth. In our case, if you look back, partly because of the policy framework, our export performance has been extremely poor. And our FDI performance has been extremely poor. So the ingredients of success that we've seen in the East and Southeast Asian countries were not to be found in our economy to any significant extent. So the growth model, which is essentially, particularly in an economy where the domestic market of 21 million people, purchasing power of just over $4,000 US, you can't drive 5-6% growth over a sustained period by selling